In this video, we're going to talk about being grounded. And what I mean by that is how we stand. So the longer I've been coaching people, I've realized that everybody wants to start off with the big stuff, the sprinting, the heavy weightlifting, the competition. But then you realize that so many people have missed the basics. And so in this program, in this series, what we're talking about is how to move and engage with your feet, how to stand, how to walk, how to do these very introductory components of life. And that's how we start to integrate with the world around us. And part of that is how we stand. And now it may seem simple, but most people never pay attention to how they stand, and they end up on their feet for hours and hours every day. And how we stand starts to shift our body in ways. For example, when I first started my health journey, I realized that after an ankle sprain, my left arch had collapsed. And so it would stand inside, my toes would kind of collapse in, and I would stand in this weird kind of way where my whole body was shifted. And I would just notice that as I looked at myself, I'm like, this is weird. My hip was forward, my foot was out, my ankle was collapsed in. And so starting to correct that was bringing awareness to what I was doing. So the idea of being grounded is really understanding, how am I rooted into the ground? And by that, I mean literally, how are your feet engaging with the surface underneath you? So what I want you to do is to stand and pay attention to where you are. And this is going to be something you'll do, like if you pay attention to it, it'll be a little bit different than how you catch yourself in the middle of, standing for 30, 40, 50 minutes or a few hours, depending on your job. But I want you just to pay attention to where you're at. And so we can learn a lot about this, especially for barefoot. I want you to first look down and look at your feet. So as much as you can, relax, and then look at where your body is. Look at where you stand. All right, are my toes straight? Are my feet pointed in the same area? Are my knees moved or symmetrical? So one thing I noticed is that from years of doing this, my left knee had more range of motion than my right, and so my left knee would hyperextend. So you might be a person that locks both legs out and hyperextends both, and you kind of get in this swooped back position and your legs hyperextend. That's gonna be something to notice, because there's not just, how to say this, when we're in this position, it's not just that the knees go backwards and forwards. They don't extend and flex. What they do is they rotate. And so part of this is being able to grab the ground with your feet and pull in. So it creates torque. In essence, what you're doing is you're putting the foot on the ground and you're turning the foot out on each side. So the motion is this, but what you're doing is you're not moving the foot, you're just creating torque all along that chain. And what you'll notice is that as you stand and create a little bit of torque, meaning I'm doing this external rotation motion, I'm twisting the feet out. When I'm doing that without moving the feet, I create this rotational torque. It's like grabbing fabric and twisting it. It creates tension and torsion along the lines of that tissue, all the way from your foot, ankle, knee to the hip. So I grab, I rotate up, and what that does is it pulls my hips underneath. You notice by organizing myself like this, I'm tucking my hips underneath. One way we can think about this is the 4 diaphragms, the 4 layers of your body. We've got our feet, we've got our pelvis, we've got our diaphragm, and we've got our neck. And so we want to stack all 4 of those on top of one another. So by organizing my feet underneath me, I grab and I pull my feet flat, because the ground I'm on is flat. My hips level out. So it's not an overextension, but it's not a swoop and a anterior pelvic tilt or a posterior pelvic tilt. It's neutral. The way I can tell that is if I feel glute engagement, but I'm not putting any pressure on my lower back. My ribs are in this good position so that I'm not overextended, I'm not hunched, and my eyes are up and forward. So just paying attention to where I'm at. Now, the goal is to make it a natural standing position. I don't want to have to be stiff and stuck. I want to be relaxed. But part of that is training the body what that baseline feels like. So the first thing to really bring awareness to is, how are your feet on the ground? And just start to notice, what's going on with my arches? What's going on with my toes? What's going on with my knees? What's going on with my hips? What's going on with my shoulders? And you might notice that, I've seen people that their head tilts a little bit to the side, and they don't realize that. I've seen people that their shoulders are slumped forward and don't realize that their head is jutting forward. Pay attention to where your body is. Now, attention and awareness is the first step, because it's going to take time for us to make these actual changes in your body. What's easy for me to find and to feel is easy because I've spent time working on it, unwinding some of the tissue compensations of my body. That will come in time. That's a longer journey we have, where you start to really understand and explore and feel your body and unlock some of these stiff tissues. That's the journey of your life. That's the work of your life, and that's exciting. But it starts with your posture, and your posture is not just something you hold, it's a natural shape you form in relation to the world around you. And rather than thinking about this as, I have to be in the right posture, what posture does my natural stance reflect? And if my natural stance reflects something, like this, where I'm overextended at the neck, my back is swooped, my legs are extended, or I'm just rounded and my feet are out in this kind of position, I'm texting all the time, well, the goal isn't to create an artificial posture where I'm trying to force myself out of that. The goal is to change the body and change the tissue in relation to a better posture towards the world. And that's going to be the goal of the whole journey, really, so we can get you to sprinting. But we start off with this idea of being grounded. So for today, I want you to focus on how am I standing? What does that stance tell me about my body? And then how can I start to bring more awareness to these 4 layers and organize myself? First, by creating torsion on the feet, engaging the glutes, feeling the ribs underneath my body, and then pulling the chin so that I'm tall. I want to be tall and upright, facing the world with my chest forward. That's going to be your intention here. So just bring awareness to that stuff, and then as you notice yourself going through the day, just make a slight correction. If my feet are out, let me pull them in. If my legs are extended, let me create a torque and rotate the feet underneath. If my back is overextended, let me bring my ribs down. If my head is hunched forward, let me pull my chin up. Those little cues make a big difference over time. That's all for today. Focus on where you're standing and make sure you're grounded as much as possible. It makes a big difference as you go throughout the day.